Thrilling adventures.
Horrors at every turn.
Audiobook, which, how does that different? What do you mean? What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
What's up, everyone, and welcome to Last Week in Star Wars. I'm Alex.
I'm Molly.
And we're going to just dive straight into the news, which, again, it was a light week, light news week, light canon week.
We're thirsty for some news.
Yeah. Not a whole lot to talk about that's new, but like today, on Thursday when we record this, right before we were going to record, some news did break. So yay. They knew we needed something.
They're giving us crumbs, but you know what? We'll take it.
This is more than a crumb, I would say. We got a new Audible original announced. Haunted Starlight by George Mann is coming out on March 6th. This is going to be a sequel, I believe, to Seeds of Starlight, which was a surprise Audible original that came out late last year. The publisher summary reads, "Days after the Jedi stationed on the oceanic world of Irem have seemingly neutralized any threats to the local people, mysterious growths begin to overtake the city. When the Jedi make a connection to the sunken wreckage of Starlight Beacon, they're forced to embark on a thrilling underwater adventure where the gloomy depths hide horrors at every turn."
Thrilling adventures.
Horrors at every turn.
Underwater.
This is gonna be the greatest thing ever.
Someone will die.
Of fun.
And of murder.
They've been doing that recently, just kind of like all of a sudden be like, hey, there's an Audible thing out and it's available now.
Yeah, I wonder why that they're not like promoting these more so like more ahead of the time.
Right, I think this is the first time they've actually promoted one, so it's nice to be able to prepare.
I didn't listen to the first one, but I might go back and listen to it because this one sounds fun and spooky.
It's nice and short. It got into the Dringir again. If you've been following the High Republic, there was a point where the Jedi captured the Dringir's great progenitor, put it in stasis on Starlight Beacon, and then Starlight Beacon went down, and I was like, okay.
What is the great progenitor?
Oh, it's kind of like the main Dringir. So if it is...
Patient Zero.
Kinda. Well, if it's put to sleep, all of the other Dringir go to sleep as well.
Okay.
So if it wakes back up, they all wake up. And in Phase 3, some Dringir have been waking back up, so I was like, are we going to discuss this at all?
Yeah, so that looks like what it is on the cover then.
Yeah, so at the end of Seeds of Starlight, we found out that the Great Progenitor is alive at the bottom of the ocean on Irem. It's still in Starlight Beacon.
Fun.
Fun. So yeah, I guess they're going to have to go find it, get it out. I don't know if they're going to kill it or what's going to happen, but they need to deal with it because Dringir are now like attacking the people of Irem.
Yeah, no, this sounds interesting. I wonder how popular the audio, it's not really an audio drama.
It's an audio book.
It's an Audible original.
Audible original, yeah.
Audiobook, which, how does that different?
So I think an audio drama has like a full cast.
Okay.
And an audio book, even if it isn't accompanied by a physical book, is one narrator.
Okay. I did see it was written by George Mann. Mm-hmm. Did he write the other one?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
So that'll be available on March 6th to all Audible members. And if you need an Audible subscription, you can go to audibletrial.com/Star Wars Explained and sign up.
Hey.
How's that?
Love it. We'll put a link down in the description.
There wasn't much else in the way of news, but I did see a quote from Stephen Knight, who was writing the new Jedi Order movie and then left to do the Peaky Blinders thing. And his movie. I don't want to discount that, but he went to go do a project that's very personal and important to him. Mm-hmm. But someone asked him about the new Jedi Order movie, and he said, "There's a system, and when you engage with it, you know what it is. You do your bit, you turn in your draft or drafts, as I did, and then the system moves on. I fully expect that substantial amounts of what I did will be in the movie. Who knows? But that's the expectation." So that just, to me, is a reminder that this happens a lot in Hollywood. This is how many movies are written, that someone comes in, does their work, and then has to move on to another project, and someone else steps in, and that's what happened here.
Yeah, I like that he came out and said this, because some people who don't know the industry as well could hear that, like, Stephen Knight got kicked off the project for this other person And it's like, no, he came in, he wrote some stuff, and then he had to leave, and he's fine with them using what he wrote for them because that's what it was for.
Yeah, to me, it sounds like, George isn't starting from scratch. He's working off what Steven began and continuing. And I think Daisy Ridley said something to that effect as well, that like the story isn't changing, but they are trying to find the best way to tell that story.
Yeah. So I don't think there's any bad blood. I don't think Stephen Knight is like upset that they're...
yeah, the article even mentions another project he's working on with Disney right now. So yeah. Again, no bad blood. This is kind of standard. It's just because it's Star Wars. When you hear like a new writer is coming in, everyone like wants to assume the worst.
I feel like this probably happens to tons of movies, and we just don't hear about it because it's not Star Wars and it doesn't sell a million articles, like about the same thing.
And, sometimes you see a movie that had a ton of writers and, the movie's not great and people will want to blame it on the fact that too many cooks were in the kitchen. But sometimes, like, I was just looking at Top Gun Maverick, and it had 5 writers on that movie. And that movie came out great. I really liked that movie. So,
I mean, is it kind of like having a writer's room?
Yeah, I don't know. I've never been in a writer's room or like...
Well, like a writer's room. I know they're starting to do that more for television. So that makes a little bit more sense, I guess, kind of breaking it up into episodes. But yeah, I mean, maybe think of it like a writer's room for a movie. We don't know how writer's rooms work. Go listen to a filmmaker's podcast for that.
And finally, for news, we just wanted to take a moment to congratulate Warwick Davis, who won the BAFTA Fellowship, which is like, Molly was just saying, it's their like Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah, it's supposedly like the greatest honor that the British Academy can give. So it's a pretty big deal.
That's awesome. And I watched his acceptance speech, which was beautiful and sad. It was a tribute to his late wife, and it was cutting between him and his kids, and like they were all crying, but like it was a beautiful tribute and very well deserved to Warwick. I mean, he's been in more Star Wars films than not.
Yeah.
And not to mention Willow and Harry Potter and all kinds of franchises. He's been in so many movies.
He's literally been in movies his whole life. So a Lifetime Achievement Award sounds pretty accurate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, he started off his speech with like, this means a lot to me, and I've been in Star Wars, like he loves that he has been able to be in so many Star Wars things, and he's just like so excited all the time to talk about the stuff that he's worked on. So this was well deserved.
Yes. Moving on to last week in canon, there were 2 comics that came out. One of them was the Ahsoka adaptation issue 8, which we weren't really going to cover here because it's not like a new canon story. It's just an adaptation of the last episode of Ahsoka. There are a few, like the Rogue One adaptation by Jodie Hauser did a really good job of adding scenes, adding context. I liked that a lot. Pretty much every other comic adaptation has been like, yep, it's the same story, kind of in fast forward. I see the value in it for people who maybe don't want to subscribe to Disney Plus, and they're like, hey, now I can read the story.
Oh, yeah.
So, there's that. But for me, I'm like, I'd rather just watch the thing.
I know a lot of collectors appreciate having comic versions of their favorite stories too. So I like
the comic covers for this series have been cool. I mean, the cover with Ahsoka fighting Morgan Elsbeth is really neat.
Yeah.
So I have enjoyed those covers.
We didn't talk about these little guys. I found these at Kroger.
Little angry squat mall.
In like the Easter stuff section. And at first I was like, maybe they're supposed to be egg-shaped, but they're just like the squishmallow, I forget what they're called. But
Mall is pretty egg-shaped.
This one just reminded me of Rada because of how tiny and like squat and round he was. And the angry mall one is just hilarious. Had to have him.
Had to have them.
Had
to. The other comic release this week was Fear of the Jedi #1. So this series, I think, is the last Marvel comic series in the High Republic initiative. So this is kind of wrapping things up for a lot of our major players in the Marvel Comics. So Keeve, Trinnis, Skier, Lorna D. We're about to say goodbye.
I don't think this will be the last of High Republic comics. Didn't Charles Soule say recently, like, High Republic's not going anywhere?
Well, Cavan Scott even said something interesting in his newsletter.
Maybe it was that.
He said something like, this is the end, but in a way a beginning for the High Republic.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean by that?
What do you mean? What do you mean?
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean?
So yeah, you might be right, but as far as announced things, this is the last Marvel comic that we know of.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm
Terrible winks. Sorry.
I'm not like holding my breath expecting more announcements because I don't want to be disappointed. So in this issue, Keeve Trinnis is patrolling the border of the occlusion zone with Skier, and she has to take on Master Sababa as part of her team. He was from the Saber for Hire comics and the Monster of Temple Peak. He has a past with Ty Yorick. He was her former master. And then he was captured by the Nile and turned into a child of the storm. That worries Keeve, understandably. So he's been like experimented on, basically injected with nameless blood.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't know who this was at all when they showed up. And I was like, well, they look kind of scary.
Yeah, he's been through some stuff. And I mean, it's sad he says hi to Keeve and he says like for light and like struggles to remember the rest of it, which I think he's just, trying to come back to being a Jedi and being rehabilitated. But
Yeah.
Keeve is understandably concerned about this. Meanwhile, Lorna D is on the hunt for another child of the storm. So she's on Naboo inside the occlusion zone and she runs into Kel Naka and his Padawan. So they've been stuck in Nile territory as well, and now they're going to help hunt down this child of the storm.
This was fun because I did read the Kalnaka one-shot comic, so it was nice to recognize. Obviously, we recognized Kalnaka, but the Padawan too.
Yeah, I was not expecting the Padawan for some reason. I don't know why I should have, because in the Kalnaka one-shot, like, he gets the Padawan right after the fall of Starlight Beacon. And we knew Kalnaka was going to be in this issue because he's on the cover.
Yeah.
So
And this was before he like shaved his head and got those tattoos.
yeah, which he's got the tattoos on the cover, but I think that's just to be like, it's Kalnaka. Whereas in the comic itself, I don't think he has the tattoos yet.
Yeah. I'm sure everyone would have been like, oh my god, it's Briaga,
Right.
if he didn't.
So this issue had a lot of fun connections through, like I said, Saber for Hire, Echoes of Fear, Tempest Breaker, the Kalnaka one-shot. It does feel like it's starting to tie things together, bring things to a conclusion, the same way the books are. So I'm enjoying that.
Can you give me like a real quick rundown of how Lorna D got to this spot? Because
Yeah.
I have not been keeping up with her story.
She's captured by the Jedi at the end of Phase 1, and she escapes that and kind of gets away from the Nile, gets away from the Jedi, and starts to work for a Hutt. So she just kind of goes out on her own. She winds up back tangled up with Keeve and goes on a little mission with her, helps rescue a little girl, kind of becomes a little better and a little better. And then
So did she like not want to be associated with the Nile anymore?
Yeah, she does not like Marchion Ro.
Okay.
She wants to get away from all that. In Tempest Breaker, their mission from the comics continues on, and the Nile are coming after them, especially Baron Bulin. So she gets more wrapped up in things, and they have to go, and she is face to face with Marchion Ro. She bites him in the neck, which was cool.
Fun. She does have sharp teeth.
Yeah, that was the best part of the audio drama, is that they're at like a Nile ball and she is in disguise, but he recognizes her and they kind of like have this tense thing where they're dancing. And I think like he thinks that she's with the Jedi, so she won't do anything rash. And she's like, I'm not all the way with the Jedi. And then she tries to kill him.
Fun. I think I like her. Yeah.
I think you'd like her full story, but through the end of Tempest Breaker, she kind of gets a pardon from the Republic because she helps them out. She thwarts a plot from Baron Bulin, and she is fully good. She's basically a bounty hunter now working for the Republic.
Okay.
So she is still like a touch of moral gray, but
Yeah.
she's fighting for the right side.
Okay, I feel more caught up now.
Okay.
She did have a fun little spicy moment in the comic.
Yeah,
with-
Quinn. Quinn is her girlfriend from Tempest Runner and Tempest Breaker.
Okay.
So I think this is the first time we've seen her drawn or like visualized at all. Are you ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes, so you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle, and can help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfast, snacks, and more. Reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat. I've tried weeks worth of Factor meals, and they're perfect for fitting lunch into my busy schedule. I cook breakfast in the morning, and Molly and I cook dinner together in the evening, but finding time for a good lunch has always been a struggle for me. Factor is simple and quick to prepare in the microwave or oven, and the meals taste good. I usually choose their Protein Plus meals that come with chicken breasts or pork tenderloins or beef. They taste good, they're quick to make, and they definitely feel like a step above a standard microwavable meal. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast and use code FACTORPODCAST to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FACTORPODCAST at factormeals.com/factorpodcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Moving on to last week in fandom, this is kind of a fun thing, but Letterboxd put out on YouTube Coralie Farjad's Star Wars fan film, and Coralie directed The Substance, which is
French.
a movie, yes.
So we probably aren't saying the name
I know I'm not.
super correctly, but it's a very French name.
What do you
so.
mean we? I'm doing my best over here.
Well, yeah, you. I don't
You're
speak
just
French
being
either.
very nice. So, yeah, she directed The Substance, which is a movie we both saw and liked.
She also did, I think it was called Revenge, which was a movie
You've seen that.
have seen from several years ago that I really liked. But yeah, she makes really good stuff.
Well, 30 years ago when she was 17, she put out a Star Wars fan film of her own. She just recorded basically a bunch of her favorite scenes, I guess, but it was her friends doing them, and there were costumes, and it was very charming to watch.
It's free to watch.
Yeah,
right?
it's just on YouTube.
On YouTube. It's funny because there's parts of the actual Star Wars films in it, and then it's like them in homemade costumes, and she did the credits and everything. The people doing the Ewoks are just kind of like squatting down, like walking and squatting at the same
Just
time.
getting all of her friends and like dressing them up and painting their faces and
Yeah.
stuff.
The C-3PO character had a pretty impressive get-up.
My favorite was Chewbacca, who was just like in a fur coat and a fur hat. And I was like, is that Chewie? And then he's just like, "Rah!" Like, oh, yep.
But yeah, I love seeing stuff like that. And it's amazing what she was able to do with all the stop motion.
I was really impressed with the stop motion for a 17-year-old. There was a lot of it, and you could kind of see it improve over the course. It was like a 15-minute thing, but there's an AT-AT at the start, which is like a little bit wonky. But then she's doing the entire scene from Jabba's palace, and like
Yeah.
every little action figure is dancing around. I was like, okay, I'm impressed.
I wonder, like, if she filmed this stuff in order, or when she first started out, she was like, I don't need that many frames, and then watched it back and was like, oh, it looks a little choppy. I'll add more frames to the other stuff.
I don't know. I also thought it was funny that she had like 2 Reese action figures, and I was just looking at her toy selection and like, oh, you had to really pad out your collection to do the Jabba's palace scene and seeing 2 Reese, a bunch of Gamorreans.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I mean, Mom, Dad, I need all these action figures for my film, for my art.
That's why when we were watching it and we just saw the Mon Mothma scene come up with Crix Medine, I was like, she probably just didn't have all of these figures.
Yeah. Yeah, part of it is just literally the movie to transition from point A to point B, and it's like, didn't get that Crix Medine action figure.
My favorite was Palpatine shuffling.
Oh yeah, he's got like the 2 little legs that can move a little bit.
Yeah.
So having seen The Substance and some of the wild body horror that's in it, could you imagine a world where Coralie gets to direct a Star Wars now? Something along her vibe.
I mean, I would love that.
I was trying to think of something that could happen of someone transforming in Star Wars. We don't get a lot of that. It's happened in the comics.
Yeah, like, there's not a lot of overt human body horror in Star Wars because, you know, you gotta keep it
Light.
keep it still, you know, for kids. But in The Mandalorian, there was that robot monster creature that was trying to steal Din's blood. And that was weird and scary and creepy. So we could find some middle ground there, and I'm sure she could create something incredible.
I'd love to see what she could do now. Like, watching her as a filmmaker and seeing where she came from, it's so wild. Like, the substance is insane. And I like seeing how she was inspired way back in the day, and she was just like, I'm gonna make my own Return of the Jedi, basically.
It'd be cool to see her do something where the mods are involved, where you have a lot of like humans and some aliens too that are just like really like worked on and half human, half machine.
Very cyborg. Okay. If they were to ever adapt the Dark Droids comic, she would probably fit in well there.
Yeah.
But that's really it for last week. So we're just going to dive into some questions we took from Patreon and from our YouTube comments. I did want to mention that this coming Monday on Patreon, we're going to have our comic book club, which I guess we've done that this will be our second year, but kind of once a year now, I guess we're just talking about all the comic books that have come out and trying to play catch up with anyone that reads the comics. So
Yeah. Just like a greatest hits kind of hour-long chit chat.
yeah, about whichever comics you want to discuss. But we're doing that on Monday at 6 p.m. But diving into questions, Cindy K asks if we're doing anything to prep for Andor Season 2.
Watching Andor Season 1.
Yep.
Making fun little videos.
We're in the middle of our rewatch right now. We just got to the prison arc. We're kind of taking our time through it. We're not blowing through it, even though I would like to. Molly's making me pace myself.
I've been trying to go to bed earlier. I can't get all worked up with never more than 12 right before bed.
Right. That's true. That's just an adrenaline rush.
We got to be ready to watch the next two, I guess, like in a row.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like, we watched the first episode of the prison arc and I was like, well, we can't watch the next one.
Right.
It was too late for that. But we're doing our rewatch. I'm prepping a frequently asked questions video about season 1, and I'm prepping a, everything you need to know video. So if you don't have time for a rewatch, there will be a recap in there, and then just talking about everything we know about season 2 so far.
I rewatched a little bit of the Star Wars Rebels episode Secret Cargo in the hopes that I was putting it out into the universe that we might get like a little live action version of her doing that speech.
So I kind of think / hope. My hope is that we see everything leading up to that Star Wars Rebels episode, that there will be a whole Gorman arc, and we will get the Gorman massacre, and then we will get Mon Mothma. I want to see Genevieve O'Reilly deliver like a Stellan Skarsgård level speech in the Senate denouncing Palpatine, because we know that happens, and then she has to escape Coruscant, and we've seen images of Cassian and it kind of looks like he's on Coruscant. So it would be cool if he got her out and delivered her to the point where the ghost can pick her up.
Yeah. I'm down for all of that. We also talked about, I don't think Genevieve O'Reilly gets enough credit for her, I guess, yeah, it is a monologue of her talking to
Tay
Colma. I don't think that monologue gets enough credit compared to some given by like Luthen or Nimic in the show. Like that episode, that whole scene of her basically like telling him, oh, it's all a front, and I mean business, and I need your help for said business, and you don't get to find out what it is yet, but maybe.
I agree. People don't talk about that one as much. It's one of my favorite scenes of the show, and I love seeing her, I guess because it's like more reserved, more quiet, like we can't be loud about this.
Yeah.
But the occasional reminder to smile
Oh, yeah.
is so fun.
That is just, like, it feels like something that any woman would just instinctively know to do, and a man wouldn't. Like he's got this dumbfounded
Yeah.
look on his face the whole time, and she's like, hello, how many times do I have to tell you, pretend like we're having a fun conversation while I'm telling you all of this?
And he like resets and smiles, and then she keeps dropping bombs on him, and he's like, huh? She's like, smile.
Smile.
Smile, please.
Yeah.
Getting into some more far-reaching speculation, Digipin92 asks what Bo-Katan might do in The Mandalorian and Grogu. I don't know if we know if she's going to be in it or not. I can't remember if Katie Sackhoff has said.
I guess she would be on Mandalore, helping figure stuff out there.
Do you think she's going to be in the movie?
I hope so. I think so.
Like a little check-in, or will she be a significant part?
Whatever trouble Din and Grogu get into, which is inevitable, I'm sure the other Mandalorians are willing to like come and help if need be.
I think that is probably the case. I mean, back in the first season when we got that shot of a bunch of Mandalorians coming in to help Din save Grogu, that just felt like such a crazy moment to see in live action on TV.
Yeah.
And they've kept like one-upping that and bringing more and more Mandalorian action to the screen. So I agree. I think there could be like a Bo-Katan leading the charge with a bunch of united Mandalorians to help out.
Yeah, and also I feel like we might get a tiny little time jump, and for what all the Mandalorians were doing last time we saw them on Mandalore, I imagine they'd be having to go back and forth getting supplies if they are indeed going to like rebuild and start a new life there. And especially if Bo-Katan is like taking on more of a leadership role, she might be traveling back and forth in talks with the New Republic a little bit more involved.
And we did see that they were gifted a bunch of land on Navarro. They have like all the way to Bullock Canyon. So there might be a little Mandalorian settlement there.
Yeah, maybe they have a little like in-between house situation there.
That's where Bo-Katan's vacation house is.
Yeah, her little bungalow.
Jedi Master Fonz asks what kind of Star Wars video games we would like to see in the future.
Something cozy.
Yeah, you're all into the cozy games now. You're very excited for that Hobbit Shire game that's on the way.
I want to play as Grogu, fixing things in little tiny hallways.
That is actually adorable. Like, okay, we could have a cozy game of Din and Grogu's house on Navarro. They've got that little pond. So basically it can start...
Yeah, it could be like a builder, kind of like Animal Crossing, where the Mandalorians are having to build their settlement on Navarro. But yeah, you can choose to play some like scenes as Grogu.
Well, you could kind of like Animal Crossing. You control maybe Grogu, and obviously Din is there. You can swap between control for them, and you have to upkeep your home. And Din will be like, I broke a circuit breaker again.
Take your helmet off, Din. Maybe you can see better.
And so he has to like put his son into the walls, and then you control Grogu to fix things.
Like everyone in that area might need Grogu to do little tasks for them.
Yeah, you're just Grogu walking around fixing everything.
Yeah. Or also like helping Din's relationship level move up with all the other towns.
I'm going to help Dad make a friend.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And like you can go into the city of Navarro, go to that marketplace, put him in the IG unit.
Well, I was thinking about that too, but they took that away from him.
Oh, that's right.
Because they made IG 11 back again. How dare they?
Well, we'll figure out a way for him to still interact with it.
I'm glad IG 11 is back and all, but, you know, that was a fun little mech suit for him.
Yeah, you could go hang out with the Anzellans.
Uh-huh.
I need this to happen now.
Just go hug an Anzellan.
Yeah.
It's a side quest. It's got in Animal Crossing, you have to pick weeds and stuff, and your daily thing is like, all right, I gotta go bother an Anzellan.
You gotta catch frogs.
Eat a frog.
You've already gotten most of your dream Star Wars games.
Yeah, I keep saying that. It's like Fallen Order and the Star Wars Jedi series, like that is exactly the kind of game I love to play. And then Star Wars Squadrons was probably the second thing I would have wanted, is just a hardcore flight sim. So an updated pod racer would be really fun. Something like that. Obviously, when the third Jedi game is over, I don't know if they're going to keep the Jedi series going or what. I hope they do.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't really have a lot of like wishes. I don't know much about the game that's being made by the XCOM company, and I've never played XCOM, so I don't know what to expect there. But a good like updated RTS would be fun.
I also really enjoy a good like choose your own adventure kind of game.
Yeah, more of a narrative.
Yeah. So just like a short, maybe like a 3-4 hour story set wherever, and most of the gameplay is kind of like easy stuff.
Just making decisions.
Making decisions, yeah. I think that would be a lot of work, but could be good.
Yeah. But that's it for last week in Star Wars. Next week, we have The Mask of Fear. I think that's all that's coming out next week, which is a nice big book. A good book. I'll try to link to my review. I'll try to remember to link to my review in here, which is spoiler-free if you want to learn more about it. But that's another thing for Andor prep. If you want to read that, it is very much made with Andor fans in mind. But that's it for today. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok, and Facebook.
And consider checking out our Patreon page. Hi, Hilo.
Why is your face wet?
As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.